Today we're going to talk about the golden age of new normals. And these new normals are coming to the most important asset in the world. You see, everyone, and I mean everyone, measures Bitcoin against the US dollar. And that's of course because for decades, the US dollar has been the ultimate store of value. People invest into the stock market so they can get more US dollars. They invest into houses and other assets so they can get more US dollars. And to be honest, for the first decade plus of cryptocurrency, they invest into Bitcoin and altcoins so they can get more US dollars. Well, right now we are transitioning to a new normal where for the first time in what feels like forever, certainly in my lifetime, the US dollar itself is experiencing a rapid change. You see, the US dollar is now changing rapidly in supply, in its use case, and its narrative. Now, its supply is changing because, of course, the government can choose to print money whenever it wants. We saw this throughout 2020 and 2021 through quantitative easing. We see it also in its use case now with energy, specifically crude oil and liquid natural gas, which used to be traded exclusively in the dollar from oil exporting nations, is now being traded more and more in the yuan. And now, in my opinion, most importantly, we're seeing it change in its narrative. These three characteristics make the US dollar incredibly hard to predict over the coming months and years. For certain, Bitcoin has always been hard to predict. That is mostly why it gets its bad reputation. The volatility is simply too extreme for most people. I know I certainly have had my fair amount of sleepless nights over the Bitcoin price. But the reality is, when trying to predict something like Bitcoin in the US dollar, it's hard enough with Bitcoin on one side of the equation, but now with the US dollar in complete flux, we are entering into a new normal where prior models and prior fractals on the Bitcoin chart are simply things that are hard to apply to what's happening now. France even demanding that Europe cut ties with the United States. The BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, now looking to create their own currency and distance themselves from the US dollar. Hong Kong courts recognizing cryptocurrencies as property. And for the reply guys that don't think that China has control over Hong Kong, you're absolutely not following the story. You see, since the national security law in Hong Kong in June 2020, this has totally changed. Hong Kong is certainly not as independent as it once was, and its brand is certainly more welcoming to foreigners, to foreign capital. And I believe that Beijing is pulling the strings here beyond a shadow of a doubt. So yes, my title from yesterday, that China is legalizing cryptocurrency, that to me is exactly what's going on. But more importantly, I want to discuss a few things here. You see, I think it's always good to reflect on your own mindset. And I see a lot of people who are angry at me that I didn't call the bottom. No, I did not call the bottom. And I'm not claiming I did. Hand up, you got me. But I told you guys throughout the 2022 bear market that I wasn't after calling the bottom, that my goal was going to try to identify when the new market structure began and start averaging into what I felt like was a sustainable next cycle. Specifically, I wanted to see something break and there be some meaningful response from the Fed. This is precisely what happened when the bailouts happened. And here I am, right here, on March 12th, 2023, talking about the biggest bailout since 2008 and the moment Bitcoin was created for. Now, I want to be clear, I did not call the bottom of 15,000 when FTX collapsed, but here we are on March 12th of 2023, and Bitcoin was trading at about 20K, a little over 20K. Let's listen in here.
So, I believe that there's a huge event happening here. I believe it's a turning point, sort of ideologically, for the crypto industry and for Bitcoin. And I believe that the world will soon wake up and now understand just how vulnerable money in a bank truly is and just how sort of flawed the fractional reserve banking system is. Hopefully, this leads to a ton more excitement, understanding, and empathy for the crypto ecosystem.
And I want to be clear, this video was made before the bailout was announced. So this was just as the bank was collapsing. I filmed this before we actually had confirmation that the banks were getting bailed out. Now, once the bailout was announced, this was the content the next day. Again, check timestamp, March 13th, 2023.
Are you ready for the mother bull market?
Now, in this video, we begin to grasp the change of guard here from a completely defensive, we don't know when the Fed is going to blink mentality to saying, hey, look, they just blinked. They blinked to the tune of $2 trillion, and it's something that we absolutely need to be keeping track of. And in my opinion, the idea has shifted from waiting patiently to starting to DCA and accumulate. It's really that simple. I want to be clear. I flipped to being quite bullish after the bank bailouts clearly triggered a massive run in cryptocurrency. Now, is this sustainable? I don't know. Are the bank bailouts going to keep coming? I don't know. But if bank bailouts are coming and the result of those bailouts is for people to jump into Bitcoin, well, guess what? We've been saying all throughout 2022, we're waiting for something to break. And this would definitely be something breaking. And if something breaks and the answer to it is Bitcoin, well, all the work that we've done for the past 5+ years here on this channel will be extremely vindicated. And I'm excited that I get to work in an industry that is truly there to help save the financial system. Now, that video was on March 18th. The title, of course, is a reference to Balaji's bet, where he was betting someone $1 million that we'd have hyperinflation within 90 days and $1 million Bitcoin. Now, I say in this video, obviously, that's not going to happen. But let's keep it going because I want to be very clear here as to the story that I've been painting on the channel. Now, we have a video here about the ETH Shanghai upgrade where I was saying, hey, look, we've had this massive run up here and the market's starting to get really frothy. Now, could it continue? I don't know, but most trends don't continue past 2 to 3 months. So like I said, I wouldn't suggest jumping all in right here. Instead, I prefer a slow and steady accumulation to the matter at hand, which is, of course, are we in a bull market? We've seen the charts. We've seen these overhead resistances and we see the dollar at support. The fact is that right now we're in a very frothy moment in the market. Bitcoin has gone on an absolutely tyrannical run. The real question is the narrative around sound money, is the narrative against the US dollar strong enough to keep driving this trend? Well, I personally think that a little bit of caution here is warranted. But mentally, my framework has gone from one of defensive, from one of waiting and patience, to one of buying opportune moments. I told you at the beginning of January that I was feeling the itch to buy. Even though I didn't deploy a lot of my capital, I deployed enough to have an incredible first quarter of the year. I've personally seen most trends in crypto last about 2 to 3 months, and that's about where we are right now. The real question is, after these alts play catch up, which they clearly are playing right now, is Bitcoin going to then go on a slump? Or is Bitcoin going to bust through convincingly into its new wardrobe above $30,000? That, my friends, is going to be the determiner. I wouldn't be going absolutely crazy here, but my personal strategy is to start seeing dips as opportunities, start deploying methodically into the market. Of course, stacking Bitcoin and Ethereum is the safest, most risk-free way to do that. Anyway, you get it. On my video yesterday, I talked about, even though we were tickling the teat here of $30,000, that my trusted TA guru, Eric Crown, was saying, hey, look, it looks like there's a reversal. Again, I'm not claiming to be perfect, but I wanted to put my hand up, acknowledge the fact that I didn't call the bottom, which I pretty much said throughout 2022, I was not going to be making aggressive bottom calls. But more importantly, that I wanted to be very clear as to when I say I flipped bullish, and also that doesn't mean that we're chunking all our money in. That means that I'm looking out years in advance and starting to methodically deploy into the markets. I wanted to see where a floor was, and I wanted to see where a floor was in this new normal, this new climate of the US dollar actually having some serious troubles for the first time, certainly in my lifetime. And that's exactly where we're at right now, embracing new normals and understanding that with both sides of the equation rapidly in flux, that short-term predictions are extremely, extremely improbable to come out. But long-term, it seems almost undeniable that slow and steady accumulation of good assets within this ecosystem is a very, very good thing to do. I'm curious, what do you think of a retrospective video like this? In the end, I do care a lot about what my audience thinks, but I also want to remind you, what got me through the last bear market was content creators, was people out there sticking their face out, sticking their neck out, trying to bring excitement and hope to this ecosystem, knowing that long-term it would win out. And it changed my life to be inspired by those people throughout the last bear market. My goal is to keep the energy in the room, to keep people excited about the long-term goals, the real underpinnings of this industry, and to describe a strategy that is possible for the vast majority of people to actually participate in. Slow and steady DCA once we've seen where that floor is. Again, there will be those geniuses who buy the bottom and sell the top. And to them, I salute you. We're not doing that type of high-risk content on the channel, but I certainly hope that this type of content inspires you to stay interested in the cryptocurrency ecosystem, to understand the paradigms that I'm wrestling with, to understand the new normal of the society that we're in. It is truly exciting and daring times. History is being written right now, and understanding that in this changing world, having the ability to evaluate and reevaluate your own hypothesis when massive things happen, like bank bailouts, like competing nations creating their own currencies, distancing from the dollar, the petrodollar and its dominance, meaning the way that oil is traded globally or energy is traded globally, having significant changes occur, not in the past several years, but in the past several days. These are wild times we're in. Being able to wrestle and grapple with these complex concepts publicly in front of hundreds of thousands of you is a great joy. And I'm super excited to continue sharing my perspective with you, not just now, but for years and years to come. As always, I want to remind you, the last few months, as scary as they've been at times, have actually been super exciting. They've reinstilled a lot of belief and hope in this ecosystem within me, and I'm personally extremely excited for what comes. Despite how difficult some of these weeks beast can be across price, news, community sentiment. It can certainly be rough. But to all of you who are still here in 2023, the content creators out there sticking their face out, to the builders continuing to build, to the reply guys continuing to reply, this is all part of the beautiful world of cryptocurrency that I think is going to reshape the world. And that's something I'm truly excited for. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Make sure to watch this video. It's really, really good. And I'll see you very soon on the next episode.